Don't worry. If we're allowed to swear, we're allowed to fuck it up because I just edited it out.
Okay. I've heard it. Oh, should we just be DJs? Should we just like, wow. Yeah. We did it. We're going to be famous.
I promise I will hold it together, Jaime. You're just bringing out all, and I have to say it now, all the generator juice.
I don't know if that's a promise you can make. And generator juice is truly the worst thing I've ever heard in my life.
Okay.
Disgusting.
Hey, friends. We are fearless. Welcome to the podcast. My name is Frances Young, and we are here today with Jaime Glassman. Before we get to this episode, I would really love for you to know what your human design energy type is so that you can follow along with what we're talking about, whether it's an episode with a guest or it's the Fearless Shorts. You're going to go to my website, www.thefearlessprojectltd.com. You're going to input some information and it's going to spit out something that looks a little weird. Yeah, that is called a human design body graph. It's going to tell you 3 important things that today I hope that you go forth into the rest of life, understanding what energy type means, strategy, and authority. And if not, just keep listening to the podcast. I can't wait for you to see what we talk about, what I talk about, and maybe get a laugh or two. So without further ado, the audience got a feel for what this podcast is about to be about with our energy. I'll let you take it away. I don't know what you're going to say first.
That's always a risk. My name is Jaime, and I am otherwise known as the Movement Maven, which is a name I created for myself. What does a Movement Maven mean, you ask? That you didn't ask, but I'm going to tell you. Basically, somebody that truly owns their movement, their body, and their own life. I realized that Maven is actually Yiddish for know-it-all, which works out because I am a little bit of a know-it-all, but it can also be defined as someone that really feels like they know it all about themselves, feels comfortable and confident in their ability to move, managing their life, managing their independence, and especially because I specialize in chronic pain and illness and really empowering people to take charge of their life, feel strong and independent, and feel like they can not only cope but thrive in their daily life when that previously seemed impossible.
That was amazing. Wow. And you Googled that post coming up with the name?
No.
Oh.
I made most of that up in terms of the meaning it is for me.
No, but the name,
Yiddish,
the Yiddish.
No, that was told upon me and I was like, it's too late now. That makes sense though.
That beautiful moment of it all coming together and you didn't even realize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Life happens, you know. When you're open and your heart is open to the world, it comes to you in magical ways.
Well, you came to me in a magical way. So I'll give it's actually a short story because Jaime and mine's friendship, business relationship, just all around being in each other's life. We've only known each other for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And now we're doing a podcast
and now
together.
We're best forever. So.
Literally.
Yeah. Good luck to you. May the odds ever be in your favor.
So I met Jaime. I recently have become a flexologist. I fucking love that name. A flexologist with Stretch Lab. And Stretch Labs are a newer franchise to Canada where a practitioner will get hired, some form of manual therapist to stretch people. It's amazing. Jaime came and did a workshop for myself, the other employees of my current location in Toronto in the West End. We were analyzing bodies. Both of us do that for a living, essentially. We were listening to each other talk. And as I'm hearing Jaime give her first little spiel about herself, what she's into, what she does, like, holy shit, I can picture myself nodding and vibing energetically with what she's saying. By the time that we were like done the whole 3 hours of training, we exchanged contact information and then the rest is history.
Yeah, it was fun. We were talking about running and different types of common injuries and mechanics and assessments for running. As soon as I was done answering my question and answer portion, I was just distracting for the rest of the time.
It was
It
perfect.
was a fun time.
It was.
It was great.
Jamie and I realized, oh my God, we are fast friends. And here we are on this podcast. Jamie is a kinesiologist. Tell us a little bit else about what have you done to be where you are now? Let's do that before we go anywhere else.
We are going to be here for a while. So I grew up doing karate my whole life for the first 12 years of my life. Got my second degree black belt when I was 17. I just have to volunteer that information so people can truly fear me. I taught for 3 years when I was there, and I loved it so much that no matter how I was feeling, no matter what kind of day I'd have, no matter what was going on, even in the dojo, I was just always just really excited to be there. And I just loved teaching, and I loved being able to connect and engage people and help people not only do something good for themselves, but it really helped me do something good for myself too. I used to love working with parents, and even grandparents would take classes with their kids. That presents its own challenges of making sure that it's engaging for everybody and they're getting some value out of it, other than just obviously the obvious connection of being able to do something cool with your family. I really loved working with people with developmental disabilities or even physical disabilities. My main goal would always be to make the class as engaging and challenging for everybody without singling anyone out, making everyone feel like they're in a part of a community, making everyone feel like they're welcome and engaged. That's something that I was doing when I was like 16, 17 years old. I had no idea what I was going to do. And I was like, maybe I'll just become a dental hygienist because my dad's a dentist. Why not? Seems easier. I can wear running shoes and talk at people with shit in their mouths. Like that just seems a lot easier. But
Can make people shut up at whim.
exactly. It's just and I was recommended to do kinesiology. I was like, what's that? I didn't know. And I took my undergrad at Guelph for 4 years. And then I still didn't know what I was going to do with it. But I realized that everyone around me was in athletics. Everyone wanted to work with a sports team. Everybody wanted to work with athletes and high performers and high earners. I noticed that for myself that I never really fit into that category. I've always had chronic pain, really susceptible to burnout. Now I understand that's a lot of because I have adult ADHD and didn't know and didn't manage it well and didn't know how to live in this world that wasn't made for me. But I realized that there was a huge discrepancy between what was popular and what was well funded and everybody else. Throughout my career, I've done a million different things. I worked for a physio clinic was my longest time. I did mostly like motor vehicle accident patients and WSIB claims and different injuries there. I've worked with a great team of different health professionals where I got the autonomy to actually explore my full scope and range as a kinesiologist. I got to do fitness testing for firefighters. I've done ergonomics for garbage truck drivers. I've worked in gyms. I've done fitness tests. I've done executive healthcare tests, stress tests, and other medical tests. 5 years ago, I created the brand, the Movement Maven, because I really wanted to help empower people that were really struggling, helping people that have felt marginalized by the medical community, that are waiting around for answers, because a lot about the way our healthcare system is structured right now is just waiting. It's waiting for answers, waiting for treatment. Then at that point, you don't even still know whether or not like that treatment's going to be effective based on the diagnosis, because it's still unclear whether that's affecting your function. And I'm like,
that's actually it.
And at the same time, too, there's so much stuff that you could be doing now to manage your stress, to manage your function, to allow you to live a strong, independent life with some support, with some guidance. I really wanted to help as many people as I can that have been struggling with chronic pain, struggling with illness, struggling with mental health, and being able to incorporate a healthy lifestyle, but also without shame, without guilt, without judgment, and creating a safe space for people that have felt really dismissed, whether it's because of a complex issue, an undefined issue, their race, their gender, their sexual orientation. I wanted to make sure that I was really creating a space where we can focus on the person as a whole and based on where their priorities are now and give them the space to explore without making any definitive commitments or strategies right away, just to give them the opportunity to choose what they want for their lives and also have the flexibility for things to change as life presents itself, because we can't control everything, which is really just the most frustrating thing for me.
Mhm.
But really just finding that space to give people a chance to meet them where they're at and really help them feel seen and heard and address their actual issues, which is more than just their areas of pain. How is that limiting them from functioning? How is that limiting them from being able to participate in their lives stress-free? Something that I've always felt my whole life is I used to wake up every single day just scared. How is I going to feel that day? Am I going to have the energy to do the things that I want to do? Am I going to be able to focus on the things I need to focus on in order to move my life forward? Am I going to make the right decisions, or am I going to be in the right headspace to make those right decisions? And throughout exploring all these things, I just felt more and more drawn to this vision of creating a community around warmth, acceptance, and practical care,
Mhm.
where I'm just trying to put the care back in healthcare, baby.
Oh my God. I could literally listen to Jaime talk about this all day. It's partially because I know deep within like my soul and what my essence of what I have also felt in the health and fitness industry. Both of us we're basically the same age. We've been in it for just over 10 years. It's been our whole life. And we're like, fuck the system, man. Like this system's fucked. But we're still here showing up, giving people space. Out of everything you said, we are truly meeting the person where they are when they come to us and saying that that place is okay. And no one else tells anybody that that place is okay, because that's where we feel the most vulnerable. That's where we feel the most like, holy shit, I know I can't control it, but I need help. What do I do?
And that's the hard part, is really being able to navigate the blessing and the curse of the ability to have choice.
Yeah. And this was our next like big premise. Let's hit it.
The ability to choose is such a blessing, a luxury, a curse, and a barrier at the same time. Because I find that I have such a hard time with, I'm going to rant for a sec
Go
on
for it.
how like business coaches or just coaching in general, or just this idea of accountability. What does accountability mean? Accountability means creating your own ability to commit to something.
Yep.
It's keeping yourself accountable. It's holding yourself to a certain standard. And the hard part is that a lot of how we're feeling already right now is stress. We already feel this pressure.
Our baseline is stress.
Our baseline is stress, and everything feels like this weight of pressure. I don't know if anyone out there can relate to this, but it just feels like more pressure. And something that I've always struggled with as well is this accountability to your family, accountability to your business coaches that you're paying, your clients, your healthcare professionals, yourself. Like, it feels like almost it's closing in sometimes. I really noticed that when I was starting my own business, getting advice from people, paying for advice from people, just trying to understand what it is that I needed to do, and almost waiting and asking for permission before I could act. But then
As
also,
opposed to just fucking going for it and figuring it out as you go along.
then also doing that and feeling this like shame and fear around making the wrong choice, worrying about the liability, worrying about all of these things. It's so hard to know how to make a choice when you don't know what your options are. So being able to take a second and take stock of, what is the blueprint? What am I trying to work towards? And what's the objective here? Really setting those expectations with people at the beginning. I start all of my assessments with, I don't want you to feel like what I say is law. I want you to challenge me. I want you to feel comfortable like pushing back on me, because all I can do is provide ideas, but you know your body the best and how it feels right now. And I can help connect those dots to start to see and open up your perspective to see where there's room for change, where there's room for commitment, where there's room for choice.
That's a breath of fresh air. I've never had a practitioner ever say that to me before.
Yeah.
If I were to like in this moment, like Jaime is this kinesiologist looking at how my body is moving, or I'm coming to her with pain. And I've been to many practitioners over the course of my lifetime. I've actually never had a kinesiology assessment, but of a practitioner saying, it's okay, you're not broken, but I also want you to work with me as opposed to me being the God Almighty of I'm going to fix you complex.
Let's talk about that idea of you're not broken. It's really about the idea that whether or not there is something broken does not affect your value, and really about building in ways to heal is about identifying not only that there is a lot more fragility and fear around movement when we feel like we're broken,
Yeah.
emotionally or physically, or both, that being able to be realistic about where you're at, being able to find answers is helpful, but also being able to build in strategies to build up your resilience and tolerance and determination to be able to tolerate a higher level of stress in life, but also to learn to recover is super duper important. That's why I like my brain goes off when someone's like, I'm broken, I'm this, I'm an absolute statement.
Yeah.
Because it really depends. If you feel like you're broken, I don't want to take that away from you, but I want to at least give you some options to figure out what that means for you and to take off some of that stress from you and actually figure out, going back to, what does accountability mean? Accountability is taking your own accountability. It's taking action on yourself and committing to who you are and what you are. I've often felt this immense pressure that once I make a declaration, once I put myself out there to be accountable to someone else, I feel this insane pressure where I'm like, okay, like I said I did this, I want to do this thing. I've chosen to make this commitment. Now I feel this pressure and it feels overwhelming.
Yeah.
So my main goal in general is just to give people direction, to give people that opportunity to see this is how we're going to build direction in your life. And ultimately, it always comes down to support. How can I best support you now? This is how I plan to support you in the future. We're setting expectations. We're making it about them. It's the second that you feel accountable to me, you feel bad for having to switch your appointment. You feel bad about not doing your exercise.
I was going to go there and I knew you were going to hit it next.
For those that don't know what kinesiology is the study of human movement. As a kinesiologist, especially in Ontario, we're regulated, which means that we're considered health professionals. And which is excellent because we can work in with so many different complex cases, whether it's heart disease, stroke, movement disorders. I do a lot of ergonomics and functional capacity evaluations and stuff like that. And what I try to focus on is it is not your job to prove to me that you're committed by doing all of your exercises exactly as I said it. These are all ideas. And the first day of our assessment or our first session where I'm giving you a lot of information, I can't possibly expect for you to make that commitment to do that every day perfectly, because that's also not the point. The point is integrating better strategies that help us with recovery, that help us with building strength at the same time. That can feel really confusing because it feels counterintuitive. How am I supposed to do both when I've never really been successful at either? Really just giving people a chance to feel okay with failing, feeling okay with building up to a point that they can start to move, start to see. I set those expectations early. I tell people about what setbacks mean. I tell people about the opportunity and the options of like feeling pain, what that could mean, how pain doesn't equal harm.
No, when people talk about pain, they have this concept of if this hurts, I need to stop, or, I am broken again, is that they have to start from ground zero, regardless if they are getting treated for an injury. If they are in the gym and they feel pain, oh my God, I need to stop. Whoa, what? And pain is telling us to look somewhere, but it doesn't mean that you are broken. Something is immediately wrong. It's an indicator. And being comfortable with it.
Is that like, especially with chronic pain, a lot of the fear around chronic pain is when you start to feel pain, that something's wrong, that you should stop. And sometimes that's true. Sometimes you should. And that's really a good opportunity to explore.
Yeah.
And the one word that I always like to come back to around when I'm getting stressed, when a client's getting stressed, when things feel a little out of control is just be curious.
Mm.
When you're curious, you're able to see all the ways that things can be, as opposed to feeling this pressure of making decisions, definitive choices. So that's why I always come back to, I hate the word accountability. I hate it because it's important, but also because the way that it's been like readapted in our society is that we have this duty to be accountable to everybody else. But how do we build accountability in ourselves? It ultimately comes down to just being open and curious. That's why I tell my patients, if they come in their second session, they're like, I'm so sorry I didn't do my exercises. I'm like, why are you sorry?
Mhm.
What about that is upsetting you and that you're worried about upsetting me? Because what we're doing is learning. There's so much value in showing up at all
Mhm.
that even if we're just getting your exercises in when you see me, that is enough at the beginning because you're learning and you're starting
Exactly.
to think about your body differently and you're starting to think about how your body is interacting with the world differently than you did when we first met. That is a huge accomplishment in and of itself, that even if you're not doing these like arbitrary exercises that are helpful and can help with your movement and can help with strength, how you interact with the environment matters way more. Thinking about those compensations or thinking about what is even accessible to you.
Mhm.
Because if we're not thinking about what's accessible and manageable and realistic, it's not a smart goal.
No, not at all. The SMART goals, the SMART moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to go back to just hearing you speak so beautifully about how passionate you are when someone comes in, this accountability piece and accountability to ourself. When we put ourselves into a box, we also put ourselves into this accountability box of, okay, so I said I am this and I have this thing I got to go do. And then when we don't uphold to that standard, let's say that accountability is a standard of something we are trying to do in life, whatever that is, it feels so limiting. It feels restrictive. It feels like I'm already going to fail before I start type of energy and mentality. And my whole journey through health and fitness and what I've realized myself as just kind of my life in a nutshell is it's been trial and error. It's been actually, it's okay to evolve and not say that I'm just the personal trainer because I never wanted to just be this one thing. I was like, that's so limiting. That's keeping a ceiling and restrictive energy on how I know that my whole life I'm meant to do all of these things regardless of what stage I'm in my life at what time. And the fact that you have that conversation with your patients in such an open, receptive, caring, putting the care back in healthcare. Yeah, I remembered that. Honestly, I do feel like, again, the timing of the universe of finding a human that has the same viewpoint as myself in health and fitness, but comes from kinesiology background, has all of her trial and error over here. I have all of my trial and over here of some other stuff that we're about to get into, that it is world domination. It is how are our brains going to help the world realize that they're only, yes, accountable to themselves, but they can hold themselves with compassion in that it doesn't have to feel like it's weighing them down.
And that's the thing about image, isn't it? It's about being able to recognize that there are people out there that are making this trial and error. And there's this almost expectation for certainty,
Mm,
which is really just about being confident
yeah.
in your own abilities. And I find that the hardest thing throughout my career has been accepting that there is no certainty
Mm.
because humans are complex and
Mhm.
all you can do is try and see what's available. A lot of what I try to do with my clients is it's called motivational interviewing. So being able to see where their opportunities for change are at, seeing what they're open to, seeing where there's room. And helping them see for themselves and make decisions for themselves
Mm.
in a guided way that allows them to see where they're at, and it allows them to make more choices instead of me deciding what their goals are based on the environment I'm in.
Mhm.
Whether you're in fitness and you're like, okay, you're here for a fitness goal, so therefore like we're going to focus on squats and lunges and like building up our capacity that way. How about we just focus on consistency? What does consistency mean to you? What does exercise mean to you? Okay, a lot of what I work on is helping people who want to get into a sport. Their goal is to be able to play with their grandkids, which has a lot of different physical demands, and being able to break that down biomechanically. And also, what are your barriers emotionally? Talking about fear, talking about anxiety, talking about all of those mental blocks that limit us from being able to see ourselves and see our future realistically, and also be able to navigate what that means for you.
Definitely
yeah.
never thought that as a personal trainer, all of a sudden I would turn into also a therapist, also somebody's backhanded best friend that they can text me at a certain moment and be like, hey, what we did in this actually just helped me in this, but that was a mental situation, not even the physical situation.
Going back to what I was starting to talk about around image,
Yeah.
is
Let's go
really
back there.
challenging because there's all this perception. Our world has been structured as much as our healthcare system is really slow. That's the hardest thing. We have access to a lot of resources, but things are slow in order to get access. It's slow around being able to figure out what is even out there. There's an overwhelm of information. Then there's the expectation of how professionals should be. I've been in the fitness and health industry for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been a short, overweight, bubbly woman, which is apparently different than the general tone of what's out there. And I've gotten a lot of flack, is the word I want to use,
Mm-hmm.
for just existing in this space. And in the past, I've been defensive, maybe even in the present. I've been really insecure about my own space because when you hear it so many times that you don't deserve to be in a space because of X, Y, and Z, or until X, Y, and Z, it can feel almost impossible to show up as yourself. And the more that I met people and experienced what I can do, it really opened up my eyes to that trial and error, to that curiosity, to that ability to see that I actually have a very important role here.
Mm-hmm.
And me showing up as myself, as my raw self, or however I am in that moment, in that day, gives a lot of people permission to also show up as themselves. And there is so much out there, that so many people out there that are craving that authenticity, that are
Mm-hmm.
craving that transparency,
Mm.
craving someone to really guide them into that it's okay to set expectations, to set boundaries, and understanding what that safety means around feeling that acceptance, feeling that non-judgment. It's an opportunity for me to show up as myself, being raw and vulnerable about what I'm struggling with, what my goals are, that I'm not perfect at any of these particular things. I've struggled with chronic pain my whole life, with migraines, low back pain, you name it. But I've always been strong and functional. And the second that I start to feel that fear, I realize, okay, I need support too.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I have it within me to manage those strategies, and really figuring out how to intercept that I feel like I should either be able to do it all by myself, or I need someone else to do it for me, and really understanding what support is and how it can be fluid.
Mm-hmm.
I try my best to provide that space for people so that they can feel like no matter where they're at, they don't have to have weight loss as a goal. They don't have to have their pain be fully resolved for them to feel healed. They don't have to be able to do certain strength training exercises, high performance activity for them to feel like they're living a healthy and active lifestyle. There's so many more options, and it's actually a lot easier to figure out what you're gravitating towards
Mm-hmm.
if you have that support.
Mm-hmm.
And also, you're allowed to change your mind. whenever you want. And that's the hard
Exactly.
part, is that I work a lot with neurodivergent folks, which I am as well.
Mhm.
It makes it a lot easier to focus on those hyperfixations, to pivot when we start to feel interested in something else, when something doesn't feel as fulfilling as it used to. Let's find something to give you a little bit more dopamine, that has a little bit more novelty, that feels more exciting right now. We're not bailing on our priorities and our
Mhm.
necessities in order to focus on this new exciting thing.
Yeah. This rawness and authenticity. We got there. I feel like this is the perfect moment to also now intersect a little bit of how we are realizing that our knowledge is merging. In the time that I've known Jaime, I have introduced you to human design. I was,
whole weeks.
yeah, I know. I was the first person to introduce you to it, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
The ability to have rawness, authenticity show up. This is the base of what human design is. And it is an energetic system that just is, this is you. You can try on this if this feels right, if this feels authentic to you. And I'm hearing you listen about how you speak to your clients about choice and when something no longer lights them up, or allowing our life to ebb and flow. Our energy ebbs and flows every day. But the human design system says that essentially you would be dead if you, in air quotes, weren't living your energy correctly from the day that you're born. We are living our energy correctly since the moment of birth and we took our first breath. Does it feel like so far that from what I've told you about human design, that it feels like you, it feels like this raw, this I am Jaime showing up every day type of knowledge of what I've just initially explained to you, because it also is the biggest rabbit hole on the planet and will continue to expand as well. I know that you're just so elated by it. You're like, this shit's amazing.
Who doesn't love to be validated and given permission to be yourself? I'm for anything that just gives people direction and more awareness. And it really just comes down to creating more opportunities for curiosity and self-awareness within yourself. Whether or not there is a strong and dedicated belief in this particular system is honestly irrelevant.
Yeah.
It's irrelevant because I've always feared as a kid being called a poser. I don't know if anyone else was born in the 90s, but being a poser was like uncertain death. Being caught for not really committed to an ideology, to music, to a lifestyle, to things that you loved. It almost felt like there was this need and necessity to justify why and you love something and show that you're
thing about
committed.
the fucking 90s. If you're not, then get the fuck out. You had to be the smoker. You had to be the drama class. You had to do this.
Yeah.
Limiting, accountability. No,
that's why I would just like in university just go do karaoke by myself all the time, because I'm like, it's a little bit of everything and I can just go and be and like thrive and make friends with strangers. And apparently that was not common or normal in my social circles. It's really just a matter of figuring out, okay, like it really helps with building direction. I think that that's what you and I both do really well, is just giving people different pathways for integration, for direction. And human design is overwhelming as fuck. There's all these numbers and colors and shapes and letters and things.
If anybody happens to watch the recording, Jamie's graph is behind us. Yeah.
And what was really cool about being able to be introduced to a new way of understanding yourself and building self-awareness in your own tendencies is that it really creates that opportunity to narrow in on choice and give you direction on how you could be behaving, interacting with your environment and building your own life for yourself. That's what I really like about learning about human design, is that it also builds in that astrology. It's things that like you also relate to because it's your birthday. It's when you were born. It's the way that you know react to the world based on the systems. What's also really helpful is that we are ladies.
Yeah.
We already have different things going on in our bodies every day of the month.
Yeah.
So being able to like also understand how that interacts with our environment, which I think that that's really cool. What I find really fun about astrology.
Yeah.
Fun about understanding how that astrology and like the world really can impact how you feel. And whether or not I believe in a system as a whole.
Mhm.
And that goes back to that poser mentality
Yeah.
where you can start to be curious at any point without feeling like you have to commit your whole being to understanding and living that way.
Yeah.
What do I resonate with? What don't I resonate with? And it's just this extraterrestrial, extra opportunity to connect with our world and also just understand that the world is big.
And there's going to be a lot of shit, and still that we will never, and I'll even bring back the moments of control that you've mentioned throughout as well. I have a little quote from somebody that I like to bring up often. It will fit perfectly with this, is that we're floating through space.
Let it go. Let it go. Can't hold it back anymore.
I knew we were going to get there. Keep going.
That's what I love about Frozen is that it's like really just like they're like, oh, we're letting it go. I'm like, it's not that easy, bitch, but that's okay.
That we are floating through space, and that's fucking scary. But if we're just floating, but there's no bottom anyways, why are we so scared that we're going to crash?
Uncertainty,
That
fear
all
of uncertainty, fear of choice, choosing the wrong path and being scared of what the consequences are is way more scary. Sometimes that bottomlessness is actually the scariest thing for people.
it
I'm
is.
of the sea and space because I'm like, I don't know what's in there. I've seen pictures of what's in the sea. It's way too scary. There's so much darkness. What do I do?
This is where I have been flipping myself on my head since truly diving into human design and all of the fears that I have in my life. In that when we are the most scared, we are usually on the cusp of making the biggest and greatest change for where we're about to go. I am really sick of the whole, surrender, just let go and you'll be fine moments. But then there's an actual roadmap of how to do that in the moment, which is human design. Every single time that we somehow allow ourselves to just get up. My life and routine are both of ours because we're self-employed, yet have somewhat of employed life as well for me now, which is cool. We don't do the same thing every day. It doesn't really make sense to a lot of people, which is also fine. It has its place 9 to 5, and then we do our thing. But if we wake up every single day and just do whatever the fuck we love as being a generator, because that's all a generator literally has to worry about when I tell that somebody's a generator. We have no idea where it's going to go, how it's going to help somebody, even if it's us in this moment, even if it will create billions of dollars for us, like all these things that we think we want and we need because we want this certainty. We want to grab on and say that we got life by the horns. But really, when you get thrown around off the mechanical bull, you get a good story.
Either way, like a generator is basically generating energy. And that goes back to kinesiology because it's just the kinematics of energy.
Yeah.
How do we build energy? An object in motion stays in motion. An object at rest stays at rest,
Yeah.
Like that. It's just physics. It's just our way of navigating what does energy mean. And it's really cool to be able to not feel like you have to be a master and there's time and space to learn because there's so much stuff to know, but also having that opportunity to have something every day that just helps give us direction, that can just remind us of what our goals are, remind us of what we want our life to be, remind us ultimately of who we are. Because if we're always trying to reach for something else, or always trying to reach for what's next, or we're never feeling like we're good enough to live how we are now or show up as we are now, it's almost a waste. You don't get to appreciate where you're at and the things that are truly beautiful about life. Even if it doesn't come as easily or feel as accessible, there's always opportunities to feel connected and supported.
My body immediately relaxed when you said that. We are just here to help people find meaning and create purpose in their life, whether that's through helping them feel a little less pain or discomfort, or ultimately just singing karaoke and having a good fucking time, to ranting about astrology and just the cool shit about life. Did you think the other day when we met up that I was going to go on a cool other astrology tangent, even though I told you ahead of time that it was going to? No one I know had done that for you before either, right?
I mean, I have no expectations. And if anyone's going to go on a tangent, it's usually me. I had no expectations about what was going to happen. I was just like, we're going for coffee. What's cool about all of this is that it's that connection either way. It's meeting somebody that's that excited to share what they notice about you is very, very cool to me, because that's something that I resonate with so hard. And being able to not feel like there's those opportunities where you have to feel small, where you have to ask for permission, where you have to ask for or look for validation. It's just existing, and it's supportive, and it's mutual, and it's just an exchange of energy is really cool. So I really love that, because you're just like, this really cool thing that I know and I know really well is how I can relate it to you directly and show us not only all these things about you based on what I know, but also how we interact together, how we're relatable,
and how that actually shows up in the moment that is truth, that is you, when you are your raw, authentic, fucking kick-ass Jaime.
It comes back down to self-awareness without judgment, without feeling like you have to decide what is good and bad about you. It's just being aware of who you are and how you feel and what you want to know and where you want to go.
I felt drawn to pull up on Human Design Graph on my phone, Jaime's, what it describes in her graph, to get nerdy for 2 seconds. And then I have a full wrap up of where we're going, because we're crushing this episode, just so you know.
For nerdy for 2 seconds, like we haven't been nerdy this whole time. Who are you kidding? Who are you lying to?
No one. Yourself. So in human design, there is something that is called life theme. This felt appropriate to bring up in this moment. I have read this to Jaime, and I also know mine quite well. But if we're being ourselves, somehow our life does give us the tools like kinesiology, like dance, like astrology, like whatever we just get fucking nerdy about. You and your fountain pens. I love it.
They're my current hyperfixation.
It just is like my little childhood heart being like, I want to draw next to you because you have the cool pens.
Remember stickers and gel? I have so many of those like multicolored ones, the ones that have the ink that changes.
Yeah, or they're sparkly. Anyways, getting off topic. So somehow it doesn't matter that, you know, we get nerdy about kinesiology, but if we are bringing this flavor, this purpose, this meaning to our life, we will be successful and feel that we are successful. And human design describes this. To every single person, this is what Jaime's is.
Repetition is how we learn. So you can read this to me as many times, but there's also a recording now, so I can also listen to you.
You can. And I am going to be recording GIFs and more human design cool stuff to just have in short nuggets. I have realized this about myself, that I love that. So Jaime's purpose or life theme is to be a living embodiment of love. You came here to be a living reminder that keeping our love of life is always possible. Your life path is one where you allow every life challenge to crack you open, where you use every situation as a tool for becoming a more open and loving version of yourself, rather than letting life to shut you down, harden you, or deplete you the way that it does most of the world. You have a deep love for life that you came here to awaken. Each time you open it up more, you awaken it in others, you come across too. You can really see how life is all a game, guiding us back to being our most open-hearted selves, raw and authentic. I'm just adding those words in there. And when you live it yourself first, Jaime being fucking awesome Jaime, you will be a beacon. Generators also just draw people to them when they're most authentic. You'll be a beacon and an inspiration to others. You have a propensity, there we go, to extremes, highs and lows in your habits and feelings. This is for a divine reason, because it's only by pushing the limits that you'll show us this attitude is always possible. Even in the deepest peaks and troughs, it's all a dance with life, God, and the universe. If that doesn't sum up basically our entire conversation about what you do for humans, how you show up and give them the choice to be where they need to be in the moment when they see you, I mean, I don't know. Mic drop.
It gives people the opportunity to show up as they are. And what that means is, yeah, I'm an emotional person And a lot of how we were raised in our generation was to suppress, was to not be inconvenient, to be
Yep.
small and to be easy. And at this point, I've learned that, especially with the demographic of people I work with, is that there's not a lot of space where they can just be however they're feeling and whoever they are. And I'm going to ask some questions, but I set that expectation right away at the beginning of not only our first assessment, but throughout, because again, repetition is how we learn. I tell people, I want you to feel like you can show up however you're at in that moment. There's nothing in life that can limit you from getting value out of what we're doing, no matter how you're feeling, whether you're having a flare, a new symptom, you're emotional, you're not motivated, you have to change your appointment, even if you're not quote unquote your best self, whether it's how you feel like you look, how you're showing up, how your ability to focus. The more you talk about it and think about it, there is no absolute anything. That's a part of your growth journey. Is really important to accept yourself for everything that you are, and also being able to be accountable to yourself by being honest, being able to identify what's realistic, to try stuff with that trial and error, and realize that if it was an error, that it's a learning opportunity to make that change. And even if you make that mistake again, or not even mistake, that like thing that wasn't the most healthy for you, that's okay.
That's
you needed
totally
that in
okay.
that moment.
100%.
It's about figuring out how to not prolong that so it hurts you,
Mhm.
and that it makes things harder for you. And that's the hardest part, is getting back into that consistency.
Yeah.
And the best way that I try to do that is just to make people smile. I just want people to laugh. I want people to feel joy. I tell everybody all the time that my favorite time to work with clients is when there's been a setback, because I get to prove to them that even if they're feeling low, they feel like they failed, they feel like they've taken one step backwards, that they're actually like 17 steps ahead, because their awareness is different, their capabilities are different. They haven't lost what they've done and learned. They're able to see that it's just a moment of humanness and an unexpected life situation that just threw a curveball and tested us in how we respond.
I'm always the bigger picture of life these days. Out of the moments of, okay, we had a setback and more pain this week, the same thing goes for just how it feels sometimes that if you have a setback and just kind of the greater functioning of your life, that you're feeling like things aren't moving forwards or whatever that means, just to say a note about something personal about me. And maybe we'll get a resonation with Jaime on the same moment. Then we'll pull a tarot card. So May was the first time back on stage for myself in 10 years. And we're not going to go down that rabbit hole of a story. But May, there was lots of chaos, lots of things going on in my life that felt like a bunch of setbacks were just compounding on each other for me to make a couple big decisions at that moment for where just kind of life trajectory was going. Then all of a sudden I needed to move. And in the past now we're going into 3 months, I have seen more progress in my life, even though I was basically having another life breakdown, meltdown moment at the beginning of June. But here we are. Setbacks are usually the things that propel us a lot further forwards. And I couldn't be more thankful to be in a beautiful home with a beautiful friend, just talking about the cool shit of life, not really knowing, again, like where our, floor is of the certainty of however our partnership, and just like, now we're two humans that know each other. So let's do cool stuff together kind of moments. Cause I never like, again, to put labels on things these days, is that thank God we're here. Is there anything about setbacks that you want to say, whether it's like global about life or that's like personal experience, or just riffing more on what you were kind of chatting about?
I just find that it's always a good opportunity to be vulnerable, and that setbacks will happen. The goal around being bulletproof is being able to handle the things that comes at us in life, and being able to respond and navigate our reactions. And that's something that I struggle with all the time.
We're just humans too, folks. I mean, we're on a podcast, but it doesn't mean we're superhumans. We just,
I'm the superhero that nobody wants, but everybody needs. But I describe balance a lot around what balance actually means. And a lot of people feel like there's almost this mastery of balance of whether it's like emotional balance of feeling like you're just always in this point of balance and feeling like you're centered. And same thing with physical balance, where if you're standing on one leg, like that, you should be completely sturdy and still. But really, balance and being good at balance is being able to recalibrate.
Before we end off here, I pulled a card before we even hopped on recording. One thing that Jamie and I were immediately bonding over is that they were messaging me over Instagram, and I post lots of things on my Instagram about just general life, let alone business. And I am a tarot reader. I have been since 2020. I'm self-taught. It's super fun. And it's just this neat thing that I love and I'm now very open about. So I post them all the time. Jamie sees me posting. She's like, pull me a card. I'm like, okay. Get so excited. We wanted to pull some cards while on our first podcast. This will be first of many. Jamie will probably be my co-host. I pulled the Four of Swords in reverse. And Jamie, if you find the Four of Swords in there, I would love for you to read it. And then live, I'm also going to pull another card for us.
Four of Swords reversed indicates that the chronic stress experience has become a pattern, and this pattern can vary in intensity. It's possible you've become addicted to the restlessness, or it is possible that it has become a survival pattern, meaning that you don't feel you will survive without it. Therefore, even during times of ease, our minds will create stress for us by putting added pressure on things, by second guessing, doubting, and self-judgment. But the thing about relaxing is that your mind must be relaxed too. So this card encourages you to begin a practice of mitigating stress in your life. It's almost like that's everything I was talking about.
I know.
That's weird.
Right?
Scary.
And I pulled that pre to us starting. And so now
also, for anyone that's watching the video, this book is so little and cute.
It's really great. These cards are also like iridescent. This is my first tarot deck that I ever bought in December of 2020.
Yeah.
That was kind of like, that was what we ended up talking about. Now let's see where
it literally has a bone on it too.
Yeah, there's some
anatomy
cool, and some cool shit.
I love that anatomy.
And
we're body workers, that's what we do.
Yeah, and there's a clock on it. It's just so beautiful. Okay, so we have the Three of Wands now.
3.
Mm-hmm.
I weirdly keep opening up to like right where it is, so that's pretty cool.
Love that.
So I love reading out of a book. I feel like I'm in like elementary school. I was
like, gonna love reading it.
I love reading things out loud. I love to perform. So 3 of Wands, opportunity, expansion, action. The 3 of Wands indicates that you are on the right path and have laid the necessary foundations for your venture to be successful. The plans you've created have provided the perfect container for you to take action and move forward. With this, you may be presented with new or unexpected opportunities. This can create rapid expansion, but it is important to remember that not all opportunities are created equal. Some will push you out of your comfort zone and will be good for you in the long term, whereas others may not be in alignment with you and your core work. Now is not the time to get caught up in quick results. Pace yourself for long-term success by making calculated choices. Examine the benefits, if it feels in alignment, and whether you see it fitting in long-term. Check in with your body. What does a yes feel like in your body? What does a no feel like? Get to know your internal compass so when opportunities come at you, you can make informed and aligned decisions. Staying grounded with yourself and your vision will prevent you from being carried away.
Well, that just also sums up, us being generators, a true yes, a true no. If anyone listening is a generator, we listen to what our body says. Whatever your energy type is, your body will tell you the answer as opposed to your mind. I
One of those things too, where you're just like, I thought I was original, but it's all in this book already. How's that possible?
It's just the universe and the reflection. If anything, we're only accountable to ourselves, what our body is telling us in the moment to decide, and that it's okay to be overwhelmed with choice and ask for support.
Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah. I have no idea how we should wrap this up today. It should probably be you singing and me being
Rappity like, rap, 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 up. Rappity rap, 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 up. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Get it, get it, get it, yeah. And see.
High five. I'd like to leave you with a reframe as to how to look at yourself with a little more fearlessness. Once upon a time, I did a meditation. This was a few years ago. Coming out of this meditation, something was very clear from my body. My body told me to fear itself less. You do not have to be afraid of the intuition that your body is speaking to you. You can fear yourself less. You can love yourself more. And I promise you that life is going to show you the rest.